Hello and welcome. Today, the Living with Wildlife Illinois team is hosting a question and answer session about the National Great Rivers Research and Education Center's Summer Research Internship Program. I'm Laura Kamen.
And I'm Kathy Andrews Wright. Today, we're joined by Justin Shu, Emma DeVite, Jacob Decker, and Nicole Morris. All these individuals have been working on applied wildlife ecology questions associated with habitat management on both public and private lands in Southwest Illinois. Justin, let's kick it off with you. If you'll give us a brief introduction about yourself, and then you can introduce the next speaker and we'll just let it then leapfrog down.
Great, thanks, Kathy. So my name is Justin Shu. I am the Conservation Program Manager for the National Great Rivers Research and Education Center. We are a direct department of Lewis and Clark Community College in Godfrey, Illinois. My background is in biology and wildlife ecology. I got my master's from Missouri State in Springfield, Missouri, and then my PhD with the wildlife lab out of SIU Carbondale. I guess with that, I'll pass along to Jacob Decker.
My name is Jacob Decker, and I am a junior at SIUE, Southern Illinois University of Edwardsville. I transferred here from Lewis and Clark Community College in Godfrey, Illinois. I am now studying, getting my bachelor's in biology and doing the EEE program, is environmental ecology and evolutionary sciences. Then I'm going to introduce Emma DeVite.
Hi, my name's Emma DeVite, and I attend Webster University, and right now I'm getting my bachelor's degree in biology with an emphasis in biodiversity. And then over the summer, I was an intern with Justin Shu as my mentor, and it was a really fun experience. So I guess the next person would be Nicole Morris.
Hi, I'm Nicole Morris. I'm currently a grad student, my second year of graduate school at the University of Illinois in Springfield. I got my undergrad in biology and environmental studies. And right now, like I said, I'm going for my master's in environmental science with a certificate in geographic information systems.
First, we're going to start off with an overview about the internship program there. Justin, why don't you fill us in on the history of the program, and then kind of tell us how many years you've been mentoring students, and then also cover the types of projects that your students have worked on in the past.
Okay, so the NGREC Summer Internship Program has been going on for 15 plus years. I don't know the exact, but it's been going on for a long time. I got here in 2016. I didn't have interns that very first summer. But ever since then, I've had interns for 4 years. So 2017, 18, I had one intern during the pandemic, and then three interns this past summer. I forgot to mention that, each of the summer interns are required to do an oral presentation at the very end of the summer, and also a poster as well, so develop a poster. So that's are some of the requirements of our internship. And so some of the projects that I guess our lab we focus on are specifically relating to habitat management. We've had a question and answer session with our Habitat Strike team. We also work with our IDNR partners. So specifically, we're really looking at the management in terms of bush honeysuckle and ways to get rid of it, and how wildlife is responding to that. So back a few years ago, actually, the IDNR started doing a kind of more of a novel approach to treat really infested areas of honeysuckle. And they're actually using planes and helicopters and actually doing an aerial spray. So they're taking advantage of honeysuckle's extended phenology into the fall. So they have the leaf on conditions, while a lot of the other the native species are going dormant and losing their leaves. So they can kind of take advantage of that species trait of bush honeysuckle. So our intern projects in the past have kind of been related to that. So, how are birds responding to these different treatments, but also from a microhabitat perspective, is honeysuckle, negatively impacting these species. So we've had a bird project. We've looked at just the general response of the honeysuckle to spray for some previous interns. And then this year we have this gray tree frog project that's been going on. And so we've had a couple students, Emma and Mackenzie Williams this summer. We're looking at tree frog response to these treatments. But also when we do these projects, there's also these side projects that kind of pop up, and Emma will tell you more about her project, which was kind of a spin-off of this project as well. And then Jacob Decker was looking at more of medium-sized mammal to game species response, and in terms of honeysuckle, and also we were using game trail cameras for that project as well. And Nikki has been helping, Nikki Morris has been helping since last fall, actually last winter. I know she wasn't a summer intern this year, but she's provided a lot of support and really appreciative, and she's going to continue working on the data set. So yeah, and she'll tell you more about her program and how it fits in with our projects. Some of the partners, the IDNR partners, deserve like tons of credit because they kind of started this aerial spraying in Illinois, and Bob Caveney specifically was very instrumental getting that started. I know they're still collecting data on the effects of aerial spraying, but it seems to be super positive, especially if they follow up with the prescribed fire the spring after the spray. Very good success rates. Even everyone here has seen some of the properties that have been aerial sprayed, and they can do a really good job if it's a really infested area. Also, I want to mention Eric Wright, who used to be a Habitat Strike Team senior assistant, who also used to work for the Nature Institute, kind of initiated this tree frog project. So I do want to give a shout out to Eric for getting this started. Bob and Eric have kind of moved on in different parts of their careers, but I kind of jumped on it and want to continue because a lot of work was done to put out these PVC refugia. That kind of is how we track the frogs.
All right, we'll turn it over now to Emma, Nikki, and Jacob. And we want to learn a little bit about how you got started working with Justin on this and how you learned about this as an internship opportunity. Let's start with Emma.
Yeah, so I first learned about the internship through Justin. I was doing an independent research class at Webster with Justin, and he was telling me all about this internship and how I could continue with my independent research through the summer. And yeah, it worked out great. And then I even was able to make this project part of my senior thesis. So it's like almost like a year-long project now that I've been going on, that I've been doing it for. But yeah, Justin kind of guided me to the internship, and it's worked out great.
All right, how about Jacob?
I first heard about the internship from Scott Moss, actually, when I was in one of his classes my freshman year at Lewis and Clark, but I had to wait an extra year to actually apply for the internship. And then during that time span between classes and the internship starting, I was able to become a part-time intern with the Habitat Strike Team, actually, through NGREC. And that gave me a lot of experience in doing hands-on work in the field. And then when it came around to it, I applied, and then Justin was grateful enough to take me under his hand to start our internship project over the summer, which was a great experience, and I'm very thankful for it, actually.
All right, that's great. Now let's switch over to Nikki and hear about your experiences.
Yeah, so I'm an intern at the Department of Natural Resources, and so with the Division of Private Lands, I go out on private lands. We do conservation type work, and we work closely with different strike teams, specifically NGREC. So that's kind of how I got linked up with Justin and heard about the project. It was something I was really interested in, mostly just looking at seeing how managed and unmanaged sites compare in regards to tree frog abundance and their species richness as well. So It's been great. I plan on doing it for my capstone project, my graduate capstone project. So I'm very grateful to be a part of this and learn everything that I can.
So Emma, for your project for the summer, it shifted from your senior thesis work. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about what made you want to shift your project and then the actual research that you did?
Yeah, so originally I was going to be, for my senior thesis, I was going to be looking at microhabitat in gray tree frogs. So possibly looking at like vegetation and maybe the bark of the trees and how that correlates with tree frogs and the honeysuckle and all of that kind of stuff. But I ended up getting kind of pulled into this photo identification software called I3S, and we were trying to kind of figure out a new way to ID tree frogs without like pit tagging, and which would allow us to look at like the recaptures of these tree frogs and help us like add further data to our research. And it just, I really just enjoyed doing it and kind of got pulled into it. And once I got started, I'm like, I want to keep going because now I just want to find out more and more like recaptures if we're, what's going on. Because now that we've got the software going, it's kind of easy once you get it started. So now I'm curious to see what the recaptures are.
So for people like myself who aren't familiar with how this works, can you give us a little bit more detail on how does that process work? How does it know that that's a frog versus a different species of frogs or whatever?
Yeah, so I3S is just a photo identification software. And what you do is you go out to the field, you take pictures of of your species. So for ours, it was gray tree frogs. Then I'd come back into the office and I'd put all of the pictures into the software, and then the software would be able to kind of spit back information and tell me like which photos pair up with other photos that I've had before. And then that kind of gives me an idea of what tree frogs we might be recapturing without having to do like pit tagging and other ways of IDing tree frogs that are kind of more invasive to the tree frog.
That is very cool that we're starting to be able to use technology to have non-invasive ways of sampling these critters that we love. That's great.
All right. So Jacob, I understand that you started out working as a member of the Habitat Strike team. So you were on the landscape and doing the on the ground work, and now you transitioned over to the research end. So that has to be a unique experience for you and a really great opportunity for your career track. Can you just give us a little bit of a explanation about the transition and what it means to you?
Going in, starting out with doing field work, doing prescribed burns and honeysuckle clearing, stuff like that. It's really a grateful experience, getting actually doing the work and getting it all taken care of, but actually getting in the opportunity of doing research and letting other management teams know like different applications to use and stuff like that. And it's a very grateful experience. And for my career wise, definitely getting more research experience is what I want to do in the future. It's kind of needle pointing on what I want to research right now is kind of the question of what I actually want to take and further on my career wise. I would love to stay with land conservation management research, going in and finding out different things and trying to apply it to landowners and public lands to help better the environment for those areas.
And so, Nikki, what are some of the takeaways for you from the research that you did over the summer, or things that you would like to share from your experiences?
Yeah, I honestly enjoyed being able to get out in the field and get more of that research experience. I had just a little bit of experience in my undergrad, so it was great to be able to get out, especially with all the data that we collect on this. I mean, we've done a handful of things, not just looking at the tree frogs, but also collecting data on the vegetation around it. In addition to that, we meet almost every week to review research papers on it. So that's helped me immensely with kind of linking, what we're finding with what other people are finding in their research. So I think that that's really valuable to be able to kind of read up on it first and then go out and practice it. And then I haven't had much time to look at the data yet, but I'm very excited to kind of put all the pieces together and just kind of increase the value of why we're taking so many samples and why we're doing this and that. So it's just given me so much more insight into the research process, and I love it. So.
So Emma and Nikki, Jacob touched upon what his career aspirations are, but we haven't heard from the two of you. What direction do you intend to take your internship and academic experiences down the road?
Yeah, I would love to. Well, first off, I guess I'd like to say like doing the internship really helped me figure out what kind of research means to me. Like I've never been able to figure out if I wanted to go down the research path or not. And so this internship really gave me that kind of insight, which I don't know what exactly I want to do, but I'm hoping to eventually work maybe with marine biology. I'm also potentially looking into like working in a zoo, just working with different kinds of species and different kinds of like wildlife. But yeah, the internship definitely kind of helped me figure out a little bit more of my path, but I'm not 100% sure where I want to go with it. But yeah, I think that's it for now.
That's excellent. Okay, Nikki, how about your career aspirations?
I'm kind of with Emma on this one. I honestly, I have a range of interests. I definitely, through my internship, have learned that I enjoy doing conservation work. I think wetlands are very important, obviously. So maybe something dealing with wetlands and ecological restoration. I also want to find a job that incorporates GIS. I think that's a really valuable tool, especially in the research field. And even with getting the experience that I have going out in the field and doing research, I would love to, explore jobs that have a research aspect to them as well. So something in those categories would be something that I want to do in my future.
What was the most rewarding part of the internship for you? And maybe also tell us some of the more challenging aspects of the summer.
The most rewarding part was to actually go out and do the field work, go out every day into the public or private lands and pretty much just walk around the woods collecting data. It was repetitive sometimes, but in the end, you're just outside working. Also, another rewarding part was actually working with mammal and game species and along for private landowners, because my background is kind of comes from, I've always grown up hunting and enjoying the wildlife and stuff like that. So actually being able to do research and work with wildlife and game species is really rewarding for me. Another aspect, probably the most challenging part, was getting in and analyzing the data. That's something I've never really done before, and using Excel and making tables and graphs and trying to figure out what it all actually means was probably the most challenging. But now having that little bit of background knowledge on it, I'm kind of ready to succeed and excel in the future with different research opportunities.
Yes, it's that figuring out what it all means part that that is a challenge.
So going out to the field was one aspect, and then two, I think going into like being able to go into NGRAC every day and have like kind of this community that you were surrounded by, and like, because when you go to school, sometimes not everyone who are in your classes, they're not like in the same kind of field as you. So it's just kind of nice to have that like kind of community a little bit as you're working. And then I'd say one of the most challenging things, I think, analyzing the data was one difficulty, but I also think like figuring out how to present your data, like present your project and present your data properly. Because like for me, for all of us, we did this whole summer like long internship, this whole summer long project, and I just wanted to really be able to figure out like how to properly show everyone what I've done this summer, and I want that to like get across and to just share what I learned. And I definitely say that'd be kind of a challenge, but I feel like it ended up like working out well in the end. So.
And I think it's that sharing piece probably that's the most rewarding in the end, because we're out there, we're collecting data, we're crunching all the numbers, we're pulling our hair out to get all of this done. We don't want it to just sit, on a shelf somewhere in a published paper. We want people to know about it. So for me, I think personally sharing the information is half the fun. So I was glad to hear that. Nikki, how about you?
Yeah, the most rewarding part for me was obviously getting out in the field, getting that hands-on experience, like they both said. Also working with other people that, we have differing and similar interests. So there were a lot of things that I was able to learn from the people that I worked with and vice versa. So I think that was the most rewarding and valuable part of it for me. And I would say the most challenging aspect was going out in the field when it was extremely hot and humid and having to climb through a lot of the invasive bush honeysuckle. So I definitely really got the firsthand experience of how invasive it can be. So yeah, that would be the most challenging for me.
Okay, we have concluded the questions that we had ready for everybody, but we'll leave this kind of open-ended. Does anybody have any last minute parting comments that you'd like to add?
I guess some other things I want to point out that in the past, some of our interns, I've encouraged them to present at meetings outside of our summer symposiums. So Kai Hardy from 2018, I believe, presented at the 2019 Illinois chapter of the Wildlife Society. So in the future, I'll be reaching out to some of the folks here and seeing if they can present their work as well. And we're continue to work on this information, the data, and hopefully have some publications in the future as well. So those are some of the things I definitely wanted to highlight. One other thing is that this past year, usually our intern program is internally funded, kind of through NGREC. This year was kind of a joint funding situation where a couple of the principal investigators at NGREC secured a National Science Foundation Research Experience for Undergraduate Award. So I do want to mention that this year it was funded by a pretty big NSF grant and then our internal funds as well.
Very good. And for potential students that are out there that are watching this and going, I love what I'm hearing, how do I get involved? Justin, do they contact you? Do they contact Scott? How do people go about getting connected with the internship program?
Well, if they're interested, they can definitely reach out to me at jshu@lc.edu. Our calls due for student applications, I believe, and feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. I think those applications are due around January, but it might change each calendar year. Emma, Jacob, do you remember when you applied last year?
I think the application process started or was open around beginning of February this last time.
Okay.
We were able to apply.
So yeah, be checking our NGREC summer internship website to see when the applications are open. So, but yeah, feel free to reach out to me as well. Specifically, if you have interest in doing projects like this. There are a lot of other projects with the other kind of scientists at NGREC doing water quality stuff in wetlands. They're kind of run the gamut, but my lab is more applied wildlife ecology.
Very good. Thanks. So that wraps it up for today's session with the National Great Rivers Research and Education Center and talking about their summer research internship program. For our viewers, remember, if you have questions about Illinois wildlife or if you have ideas for future Q&A sessions, please send those in through the Wildlife Illinois website. And thanks for watching.